Hello right bags, it's Jade, welcome to Survival News, a roundup of everything that's been going on with brand new releases, all the info on updates and new games coming in this week or in the future. Drake Hollow, Terraria, Green Hell, Icarus, Long Dark, Grounded, Breathedge, Rune 2, Forager, Ark, Fear Evolved and the Survivalists is all on the show today. So make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, check out the timestamp so you can skip to the info you need. Let's go, it's all here, it's the Survival Show. So I told you guys that Drake Hollow had a sandbox mode incoming and it was available on PC and it would be coming to Xbox, where it did go live on October the 13th. A bunch of little fixes as well with this, but pretty much it's going to be endless seasons. You can take your camp through never ending seasons, so you can carry on playing the game, it won't end. You're going to have a new currency called sigils which will be able to power your travels through the seasons. You've got a new camp level of 25 and there's going to be new cosmetics given to you every sort of 12 levels or levels above 12. They're pretty snazzy, they're pretty cool, I like this one a lot. Also a bunch of stuff going on and it's just the first iteration of their sandbox mode. They plan to add a lot more modifiers to make the game even harder or easier depending on your playstyle. So good stuff, another developer really showing proper support for the game even just after it's released. Earlier on this year, Terraria announced it was going to have its final update, Journey's End, and it added just a whole bunch of brand new endgame content, a revamp of a lot of stuff, and all in all, just a good way to go out. After like 9 years of updating the game, they did say that was going to be the last one, but they lied. There was one final update they've just pushed out, and it's kind of just a little tinkering with certain few things, adding a final NPC and some new achievements, and just that last bit of balance changes. They've also added some new vanity armors, and they've got some game credits now. Now the biggest question is, when are console and mobile getting these updates? This all happened on PC and it's been months and months now without any real news about console. Journey's End is coming to mobile, that's going to be happening later on this month, but if you're an Xbox or PlayStation fan, you're going to be waiting just a bit longer. I'm going to go out on a limb and predict it probably won't be out until 2021. And then of course that means today's update I'm sure won't be out till then either. But likelihood is they'll probably bundle it all together with the Journey's End. If I get any news about it comes to console, I'll let you guys know. So Green Hell, I told you guys I was quite disappointed with Nintendo Switch port. It seems it's just a bit of a muddy mess. It plays okay. There's a few loading screens in between going into inventory, but the fact that the graphics just are so blurry really does hinder the survival nature of the game. Makes it even harder than it maybe should be. So I'm hoping the console versions on PlayStation and Xbox are going to be much better. And we've now got more release dates geared around when we're going to actually see that. This will probably be like the second or third time they've announced some sort of delay. I do believe they announced it would be coming at some point early 2020. Then they said, nope, it's going to be end of 2020. And now it's looking likely it won't be until maybe February or March next year. You're finally going to get to try Green Hell on an Xbox or a PlayStation. But part of this new updated roadmap is you've got Spirits Amazonia Part 1 coming this winter. So I'm guessing November, December time for PC. Then we've got the second part of this update coming in spring, and then the third part coming in the summer. It is meant to have the first part, the Spirits Amazonia, with the console versions, I do believe. All in all, good stuff. Again, another developer showing support for their game, and these will all be free. There was a little bit of confusion at first. It did seem like this was going to be some sort of DLC, but no, this is all free content coming to the game. Despite me saying it's not a great looking game on the Switch, I know it's really hard to get a game like that running, but as I just said, the Long Dark is a pretty good port. I would definitely, if you've got a Switch and an Xbox or PlayStation, I would hold fire and just maybe wait until it actually appears on these consoles. It's not exactly the biggest price either, it's only like 22 quid or whatever it was, so it's not as expensive as Ark was. So if you want to give it a try, go ahead. But like I said, I just found it big problems with the actual graphical output, just too far below what I would expect, even though it is running on Switch. The minute I get any news about this though, absolutely I'll let you guys know. I reckon Green Hell is one of the best survival games you can play. So recently I told you guys about Icarus, the brand new game being created by Dean Hall, the founder of DayZ. Obviously this is his new company, new game, nothing to do with Bohemia. Just to make it clear, because there's some people that really just can't realise or differentiate between that. So go and watch that video if you want to hear more info about Icarus and my thoughts and opinions after seeing an interview and some gameplay. But they've been revealing some more screenshots and it looks pretty cool. Again, just more of the same sort of stuff we've seen in them snippets of gameplay. Pretty basic building materials still though, and the character models I have to say look pretty, I would say a little bit amateurish. I like the backpack on the side, it reminds me of, what do you call it, Deep Death Stranding, whatever the hell it's called. But the rest of the armor suits, I don't know, it just feels a little bit off-ski. Nighttime looks good though with the arborolist sort of thing it's got going on, the vibe. And you are going to have to be careful about the nighttime. getting your resources gathered just before you go, because it does get incredibly cold, I think. But this shot is pretty cool as well, showing how high and how big you can actually build your bases. Look at this staircase going all the way down. I like the fact it looks like you're going to have to support it properly with these almost log walls. So yeah, it could be a good component. One thing obviously though is that with Icarus, you're meant to be landing on planets, and then there's a timer. Basically, you've got to get off that planet with your resources before, you know, you run out of oxygen or the escape ship goes away. So these bases, we're not too sure if they're going to be some way to blueprint them up and then place them down in other plans, or you're going to have to just start all over again. But either way, it's pretty interesting. Remember, Icarus is a PvE focused game, not PvP. So The Long Dark has announced its plans for the rest of the year, including some spooky Halloween content, and they're going to be doing something pretty different. Every year they do themed events, and this Halloween they're changing it up from what they normally do. They're also talking about survival update coming up in December, and what's happening with episode 4, hopefully coming in the future. If you haven't already seen, go and check out my live stream of The Long Dark on Nintendo Switch. I will say I will rate it as one of the best survival games you can play on that console. There aren't as many, obviously, as some of the other systems, but for sure it's miles better in terms of the port job that's been done, the actual gameplay, than something like Art Survival Evolved or the most recently Green Hell. Anywho, October 29th to November the 12th, their brand new event, Escape the Darkwalker. Pretty much there's going to be some sort of invisible entity that's going to get closer to you, and once it reaches you, you will die. The Long Dark is all about rationing your resources and making the right move at the right time to get from one area to the next and keep surviving. Darkstalker is going to keep following you, and it'll get closer and closer, so you've got to be on the move at almost all times, planning out strategically whether or not you're going to make it to the next point. You won't be able to use the insides of buildings as security, as it can still get you anywhere. So it is all about just seeing how long you can last. It sounds pretty cool. As the monster comes close to you, which you won't be able to see, the music's going to ramp up. You'll hear audible cues and all sorts of things will go on. Also added to that, they're adding some horrible mist or fog that will start to kill you if you stay in one area too long. When the fog appears, you're only going to have 5 minutes to escape the region before you die. All in all, it sounds really cool. Definitely something a bit different. To help you along that as well, you're going to have special paint glyphs that you can use to ward off the Darkstalker. They've done it this way instead of what they normally do, which is just have 4 nights of night or 4 days of night, where it's just completely nighttime in the game, I do believe, and a bit harder because people complained they couldn't always fit in them 4 days in their real life schedule. So this one's a lot more gentler. You can choose when you want to play it. You'll still get loads of rewards and in-game items like little badges and stuff like that. So really cool stuff. Also, if you do participate in it, you'll earn some special unlocks, including a new custom mode unlock, Endless Night. So if you want to carry on playing that old game mode, you can do. And they're coming up with a new December survival update. This is going to be called Ash Canyon. You can see a little bit of the sort of art there. It's going to have 2 new items added to the pot as well for you. Lots of UI improvements, tuning changes, etc. So it's good to see, again, they're keeping that survival crowd that really most people enjoyed that survival sandbox the most. Now, if you don't know, The Long Dark launched with 2 episodes and it was planned to have 5. They finally released the 3rd episode earlier on this year, or maybe even last year, and episode 4 was meant to be due at the end of this year, but it looks like it's been delayed until next year. This is something they spoke about in the past. And while I still think it's an incredibly long time to get out this type of content, considering it's story content, at least the developers are keeping people in the loop. So yeah, don't expect episode 4 until next year, and I'm guessing episode 5 might end up being 2022. So there was a hotfix for Grounded last week that I didn't cover, you guys. It was again another hotfix over the other last hotfix, and again it was just more stuff to be fixed. Little problems and issues not necessarily working as well. So I didn't really see the need in doing a whole big video for it. But lots of stuff to do with the zip lines basically crashing games for people when they do across big distances. Well, that's been fixed hopefully a lot now. And stuff to do with the spinning wheel occasionally showing the wrong timer when looking at it, that's also been fixed. They also fixed an issue with the Daredevil mutation not showing up when you've bought it previously and joining another world. And lots of FPS fixes as well. For anyone wondering about what's going to happen with the next generation, and I've got a video coming soon talking about survival games with the next new consoles. Grounded does give a kind of hint about what to expect. A new post has pretty much confirmed it's going to have a lot of the bells and whistles you would expect. It's going to target 60 FPS on Xbox Series X and the S. Obviously you're going to have full 4K support for the Xbox Series X. And this is what I'm hoping for a lot of other games. We still haven't heard any word yet from survival games like Wildcard, whether or not Ark is going to get a big fancy redo. They were pretty proud to announce they supported HDR with the Xbox X when it launched, and they did have the boost mode on the PS4 Pro. But so far they've been a bit quiet, as have some others. And I told you guys recently that Funcom, the makers of Conan, have no plans to actually do any sort of big update themselves. The next gen will improve the looks of the game, and it may offer FPS improvements straight away. But there are definitely some developers out there making sure that they're doing an additional update to really spruce things up and add even more benefits for the next gen. I do hope that some of these survival games do kind of take a look at this. One of the biggest benefits of next gen is the increased memory, and that is going to increase the way that you play the game, simply because so many of these survival games eat up the memory so much. It's why so many companies stay away from them. With so many base parts, creatures, items all over huge maps, it can be hard to compute exactly where everything is at all times. So the next generation, with their increased RAM, they'll be able to do that job a lot quicker. So technically we should see a lot less lag. I am going to be doing a rundown of all the survival games that are on the current generation. I'm going to be showing to you guys on the PlayStation and the Xbox, the next gen, what they look like, what they run like. So maybe somewhat kind of anticipated, I told you guys that BREATHEDGE was going to be coming out this November, but these developers have been known to delay quite a few things. BREATHEDGE is a space survival game, and it's got a lot of humour to it, but it now looks like it's been pushed back until the early part of 2021. Now, some good stuff is that they've teamed up with a publisher. They were just totally independent beforehand, and this publisher is going to help them a lot get the stuff done needed for console releases. So although the full game has been delayed, it does mean that actually console and PC are going to be released at exactly the same time. Obviously, it's been in early access, but coming out of early access, it will be launching at the same time as Xbox and PlayStation. They're also planning a bunch of new improvements, as well as lots of language additions to the game too. But yep, their plan is to release it not just on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, but Nintendo Switch as well. They're going to have obviously the last chapter that completes the story of the game, and in the future they're also going to be updating the game with some free content, just like Green Hell have, and that will come after the release. So they're hoping this will all pan out rightly, but they have said that if there's any delays, it might be down to the console ports, any issues or certification problems. But that's what they're planning the first part of 2021. I think it's a good move. I think November was going to be pretty hectic and busy with big games, and it does mean that smaller games that might have a chance of getting played when nothing else is going around, they are going to get ignored. So great stuff for them. Maybe some other companies should take note. Rune 2, that survival RPG game that came out last year and pretty much had just a controversy because the original developers left the day or two before the game came out on the Epic Games Store. They ended up getting basically bought all over to Bethesda and are now working for them. And the publisher had to scramble around finding new developers to carry on updating the game. The game was not in a good look when it launched. It was pretty ropey and poor. Since then, they've had a number of updates that have improved it. They've added a new bunch of tutorials, new story segments, and overall it does seem like polish has been applied, and it's now coming out on Steam. But they've put it as November the 13th. That is literally 3 days after Assassin's Creed Valhalla comes out, and only a few days before, obviously, Cyberpunk 2077. Why would you go ahead and release a Viking-based mythology game, very similar in terms of third-person action, so close to Assassin's Creed Valhalla? It just makes no sense. Obviously, the game has already been out on the Epic Games Store, so maybe they just don't see it as any big reason not to. But I personally think they should have waited another month, released it in December or maybe even January. But their plans though are that they're going to be adding a new PvP arena mode, and they're also going to be turning on PvP sections for people too. So pretty much deathmatch and team deathmatch are going to be coming. So that could be interesting seeing how that goes. And obviously deathmatch is going to be free for all. Grab yourself a weapon and pretty much fight for your life. And then team deathmatch, you'll obviously be able to join your friends and do the same. When you're making your own deathmatch mode, you'll be able to turn on a bunch of different difficulties and options. So it's good if you want more balanced play, maybe turning off god powers and stuff like that. And yeah, they're thinking of adding a proper PvP arena mode to the game in the future. So good stuff, just poor timing. But yeah, their timing really sucks. No news about console releases. I can't imagine they made too much money off the back of the Epic Games Store. So we can only hope that maybe they do make a bit off Steam, and we might see something like console ports at sometime next summer. Fans of Forager, the crafting simulation game, are going to be happy that finally multiplayer mode is coming. It's been tested right now, and it does look like there's going to be a closed beta for it in the future very soon. I'm really hoping they just put this on a test live server and let people at it, but it does look like probably going to take their time a bit more. Forager recently, in the last few months, had all of its PC updates come to console, and it did launch on the Nintendo Switch properly as well. Or maybe it was always out on the Switch, I can't remember. But either way, it's more or less up to date with the PC version now. So you've got all the kind of content that was missing for about 9 months. This will be the final puzzle. If they get the multiplayer right, it could be really fun. I think Forager is a great little crafting game, but definitely is going to be one of them games that's a lot better to play with your friends. So last week there was big plans announced for the Fear Evolved 4 event that's coming up, and some of the community managers have been teasing a lot of stuff with ARK new stuff incoming. Although strangely, SED has said that there may not be a trailer for the Fear Evolved event this year. Anyway, if you missed this stuff when it drops on Friday, we'll go through this and then we'll talk about what Dolly's just said about stuff incoming. But pretty much it's going to run from October the 22nd to November the 6th. You're going to have 2 times breeding, 2 times player XP. There's going to be 11 brand new spooky themed chibis and 7 new ghostly dinosaur skins. There's going to be loads of Halloween creatures running around, including some new ones. The typical Dodo Rex, Dodo Wyvern are going to be there. The Zom Dodo, skeletal creatures are all making their return. But new this year is going to be Ghost Reaper, Ghost Bulldog, Ghost Rex, Ghost Basilisk, Snow Owl, Mantis and Direwolf. And the event chibis are pretty much all going to be skeletal versions. You also get some of the creature skins, the ghost ones, by killing Reapers, Bulldog, Rex, Basilisk, Snow Owl, Mantis and Direwolf. And returning stuff like pumpkins, stolen headstones, scarecrows and dino candy are all going to be there. There's 2 new emotes, the Scare and Knock emote. Then they're adding the other stuff like the Zombie, the Dance and Panic. And there's 2 new skins as well for the Reaper swimsuit skin and the Jack-o'-lantern swimsuit skin. I should really make these applicable to armor pieces. They're just pretty useless if you can only wear them on yourself. Lots of brand new colours as well, including my favourite, Jade. And they're hyping up their live tuning system, which pretty much means that server owners can adjust stuff and add stuff, and it doesn't upset the game as much. Mainly for PC, but they're also talking about all the rest of their game improvements they've been adding over the last few weeks. Dolly did have this to say though just last night. Community Crunch this week and next week is going to be jammed with announcements, reveals, information, just a little bit of teasing. Got lots coming between Fear Evolved at the end of the year. So I reckon with that I will do a proper ARK news video tomorrow. Yes! We'll cover all the latest announcements maybe. We'll see how it goes. And just finishing off with the Survivalists. It obviously launched on Xbox, PlayStation and the Switch a little earlier on this month. Great little game, great little survival simulation game. Definitely want to get back into it a little bit. Just been so busy with all the other content I've been covering. But they've had a few fixes and have outlined what they're going to be doing in the future with adjustments. They're opening up an experimental server. So they're going to be making some changes to the monkeys, how you can find them. They're also going to make much higher tier monkeys. So when you go through the game, you're going to actually have to have better tools to give to them before you can actually tame them and use them. So that's good features. Pretty interested if you've tried any of the games that I talk about. I often show off brand new games and I talk about their updates and releases and stuff. Have you given Drake Hollow a go? Have you tried a Survivalists? What about Green Hell on the Switch? Let me know in the comment section what ones you've tried or what ones really take your interest. And that is it for the survival show this week. As I said, I may be back with a more in-depth look at the ARK news if it's big enough, and I'll catch you as ever every single Friday for the best in survival games news. Until then, I'll see you ratbags later.